Yeah, I'm filming right now.
Okay, so start.
Go ahead, give us a little bit of information about who you are and your role at the company and what it is actually.
No, I don't like the question. Right? I think that it's got to be more so like we're just beginning an interview, right?
Okay.
Oh, so it'd be like, this is Yusuf. I'm sitting down with, and would you like to introduce yourself or something like that? So it's like you're legitimate, whatever.
Right. Okay. This is Yusuf. Yusuf Javed, coming straight out of you from San Francisco. And
what a beautiful space we're in today, Yusuf.
Yeah.
I wish you could see the view.
It's a gorgeous room that we're in today with our buddy here, my buddy here, Shri. And Shri, why don't you tell us a little bit more about who you, your role at the company and what you actually do?
So, Yusuf, I am the CEO of the company, which, quite frankly, before I even get into that, I just want to say I don't believe in titles. I call myself CEO, but in reality, I'd like to introduce you to the only member of my C-level suite, and he's sitting right here. His name's Raja, so this is a real guy that makes it happen. But what I really do is give people the tools they need to succeed, and I guide the overall vision of the company based on my passion in technology, which I've had for a very long time. So the company is Gray Matter Platform Incorporated, and right now we are focusing our expertise on the craft beer field.
Oh, that's interesting. How'd you guys get to that point?
So we got to, oh no, you're supposed to ask my background, more details.
Oh, don't worry. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your background.
We'll spice it in there.
Yeah.
First, tell me. So my background, Yusuf, is like a lot of people. I'm born and raised in the Bay Area, and I was lucky enough to see the prognosis of the entire industry and what happened. I actually went to a school called the Harker School. While I was here starting in around 2002. I was one of the first people to co-locate this game server Counter-Strike out here in the West Coast with Hurricane Electric. I made quite a bit of money on that while I was actually still in high school until I got infiltrated by a group of Chinese spam attackers who took control of my servers, and I actually ended up becoming one of the #1 relays of spam. For about 2 weeks, my account got locked out, and I was considered too high of a risk to continue to lease out to. So that's kind of how my very first business went kaput. After many years of learning Linux, doing all these things on my own, I left the computer science space very briefly. I went to UCLA, and I decided to do a degree in both economics and computer science. I had a senior year thesis where our job was to analyze the ladders.com and figure out, is there a better way to recruit talent, to recruit people? So I looked at what these guys were doing, and the company was incredible, frankly. They made $100 million a year, charging you $100 a month to access job listings you could literally download from monster.com. So there were, needless to say, there were a lot of things that could be done here, and interestingly enough, during this period, I had a fascination with graphical databases, which are becoming somewhat all the rage. So for those who are not so technically in the know, graphical database is very easy to visualize. It's the idea that when I store data, I don't just store it in a table in a row. All of my data needs to be stored with relationships to one another. So I actually won first place at this competition. And the president of Deutsche Bank Europe thought it was a phenomenal idea. So naturally, like all young college kids who are going to become the next Zuckerberg, I went out and I set out to try and build that company. I learned a lot along the way, and the first thing I learned is you should never start a company if someone's not willing to pay you for that product ahead of time. So I built a very cool product, a lot of people liked it, and I overcame a lot of obstacles prematurely. So my co-founder is actually the head of data analytics for Northrop Grumman. And back in 2011, we were interested in Amazon Dynamo. We ran our algorithms on there. And after about a 3-hour test case, just to see how our algorithms were doing, we as a tiny startup with no funding got hit with an $8,000 bill to test our data. Very quickly realized the entire thing was unsustainable, went back to kind of figure out what next. We finally got close when we hired a very good guy, Sheng, who's a master's in machine learning from Berkeley. And one of the things he told us during his interviews, how disappointed he was placing only number 1,060 in all of China. So as soon as we heard this, we knew that he was the right guy to kind of round out the team. We put the product together, and LinkedIn shut us out of their API prematurely, invited me to come in and take a job interview. I, like all people who is a lifelong entrepreneur, am not ready to go down that path. So I regrouped, and I got in contact with an old buddy of mine who was the head of Lululemon community outreach marketing. He managed a store in San Diego, and Lululemon is this brand that attracts very beautiful women, a lot of affluence, a lot of connections. So the most random thing in my life happened. The company was maybe 3 or 6 months from going bankrupt. And I got connected to a gentleman that was quite a big craft beer aggregator down in San Diego. They fell in love with what we could possibly do together. We worked out an agreement that would have called for a 50-50 revenue share. We preserved the technology. I don't really need to get into that. But what I will tell you is the technology we built was so phenomenal that they insisted on acquiring the company if they were to use that technology. So at this time, myself and the early investors regrouped and decided to have a serious look at the marketplace and what we were giving up. And we decided that it made a lot more sense, given our fantastic team, to go ahead and raise more funding to enter the craft beer space on our own. So we really got I believe in the traditional sense of Silicon Valley, we were forced to pivot until we came to this end conclusion. And I know when a lot of people hear you're entering into craft beer, it's very shocking to them. It's like, well, aren't you supposed to be a tech company? The reality is we are a tech company. That's how we are going to run our business. That's always been my philosophy, that technology is the driving force, but having that entrepreneurship background, I understand it's about creating real businesses with cash flow that we can evaluate today, not 10 years, 20 years down the line and speculate. So that's where we are today. We are currently seeking our 500K launch fund, and we're 250K of the way there. So I'd like to think that it's pretty promising.
Okay, interesting. One thing you said is you're still a tech company, but you're selling craft beer at the end of the day. Would you be a beer company?
So I would say we're a hybrid model, right? In that craft beer companies, what do? They sell and they make craft beer. Tech companies innovate great technology solutions. And really, that is exactly what we have done by noticing the pinpoints from a different lens in the craft beer industry. Because these guys are beer aficionados, right? They crave off beer. They don't necessarily understand how to fully integrate technology into their business, and that's where we come into play. So to give you just one baseline example of this, currently, you as a manufacturer of craft beer, you brew it up, you send it to your distributor, and that's it. All of that information, all of that data goes into a black hole somewhere that you have absolutely no access to.
Got it. So at the end of the day, what you guys really are, you're a technology company that leverages, you really are a company that leverages technology that you created in-house to help sell your craft beer. Is that what it
Yes,
is?
with that we created in-house to not just sell our craft beer, but to comply with government regulation. Because this is one of the key problems that we solve, is the fact that if you are somebody who's visited California from New York, let's say you really like 3 of the breweries that you toured. These breweries right now, first of all, they can't ship to you. Secondly, even when the law does change, which it will, they can only ship to you directly their product, right? So our solution is the fact that you want product from all of these craft breweries, and that's really where we come into play, just as an initial value add right out of the gate before you go and evaluate all the other massive technology solutions that we're driving forward in the industry.
Okay, that's interesting. Um, so going back to the craft beer that you guys are ultimately selling, you're not making your own craft beer, right? You're actually just grabbing other people's beer and selling it? Or?
Yes, so we absolutely are not making our own beer. Well, I would say though the model is to white label our own beer, a la Kirkland Signature model. We sell your product, but we can also white label your product for the right price under our brand.
Got it.
And one of the things where we see is really crucial is we actually want to expand into countries like India and Spain very rapidly. We think that the craft beer movement is here, it's coming, regulation is about to be taken down, and in the meantime we're going to use as much technology as possible to make that happen.
Got it. So would you say clearly, to make it even more simplified, you're more like an e-commerce platform for craft beer? Would you say that, or would you?
Yes, I would say we are a customized e-commerce platform for not just craft beer, but really any high volume e-tailer that requires the kind of data analysis and sophistication of our product. Because we are using craft beer as a jumping off point because we believe this is a very lucrative industry, right? 1 trillion by 2020, growing 16% annually. You have the fact that every year in California alone, we now have over 100 potential new customers who can sign up to the product that we're offering. That kind of growth is really unprecedented within any other industry.
Got it. So what makes you guys different from other people? I mean, what is the real problem that you guys solve that others are just not, or are not doing as well?
So right now, getting beer shipped to you online is an incredibly difficult process, almost next to impossible, right? When you actually get that beer, oftentimes not only does it get damaged, but you're talking about a 10-day shipping time. So unacceptable to the traditional customer. The actual inventory the customer wants is simply not available. They're having to refresh constantly because of your most popular craft beers, you only have 100 of them. So they're sitting on the edge of their seats waiting for the single item to come into place. 2,000 unique SKUs get generated every month, and the data is just so massive. It's very difficult to understand how one SKU relates to another without crunching and aggregating a lot of data.
Right. Okay, that's very interesting.
So Yusuf, if you wouldn't mind, what I'd like to do now is kind of take you through our demo so you can get a better understanding of what we're doing. What I will do is record a copy of this onto my desktop so we can also have it. Not record that part. Yusuf, can you see up there?
Yes, I can.
Alright, so here's one of the first things that we're going to do that I just want to comment on. When you see your app, you'll really understand it.
Do we point the camera to that?
Yeah, go ahead and point the camera up there. There's no point in looking at me anymore, right?
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and go in. So our app, if you notice, in order to simply launch our app, we're having to launch at least 4 different microservices. So the reason for that is scalability. Is you want to make sure that when you have, when you're featured on Reddit, whatever it may be, your site doesn't crash, and you can customize how you spin up your instances.
Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about how the tech works or what it's actually run under?
So I'm about to go over everything that it's run under to make sure you understand our full stack. So the core of our stack is Node.js, where we use Meteor to have the entire bundling system happen. That's how we actually deliver information to our client. Then we use a system called RabbitMQ, which is a messaging platform. And RabbitMQ sends our data via broker into Python as well as Scala to run our actual machine learning and transmit it back and forth. So what we're doing is on our MongoDB client-side facing app, we're inserting and deleting directly into MongoDB. Then at the same time, we're doing the exact same transaction on Python, on Scala, and then we're also, when we do the inserts into MongoDB, we're factoring in data from Cassandra, TitanDB, our other data stores. So we have crawlers that are actually constantly crawling information from Rate Beer and Beer Advocate to better understand what are the similar beers, what do customers want, what are the price points theoretically supposed to be. So if you can go ahead and look up here, our site, I guess one of the first things I can go ahead and demonstrate is just its sheer speed in terms of search. So let's go ahead and do something, because this is how customers really like to look at their beers.
It's fast.
Like this thing just it's almost too fast, frankly. So here we can just, this gives you a generally good idea of how fast our site can add stuff to cart. Oh wow, I'm not signed in. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump to the sign up process. Okay. So Yusuf, what I'll do is just to jump you right in, let's check out the beer club.
Okay.
Oh shit, I accidentally logged out. Okay, so here we go. These questions right now are subject to change. We're still testing it out, so you just have to pick one region. Hey, give us some information. So I'm on the West Coast. Why would I want West Coast beers? Midwest, okay. Let's see something. All right, let's go ahead. Light. These we're going to be adding a lot more to, but we're trying not to overwhelm the client during the initial onboarding process. Let me go ahead and subscribe. So, to give you an example of one of the places we use machine learning, it would be right here. So as you can see, I think sub that out, yeah. So as you can see right here, this is $100 a box. This has a 10% discount. This has a 15% discount for 12 shipments, right? The idea is, what is the lowest discount I need to push as many people into 12 shipments as possible? So the other fact is, hey, maybe it's not just a percent. If I made this green and a different number, would they be more likely to convert? The fact is, most people are able to do A/B testing. We're able to do multivariate testing. So that's another reason why your typical craft beer company would not be able to do that versus we can. Good old Stripe to process our transactions. Okay, so I made everything manual, so you can go ahead and see how we're running this. So normally, this message is going to be sent via broker. So these are just 6 random items. What we want to do now is run our actual machine learning script to figure out, if you excuse me, let me just load it up. Okay, so these are 6 random items, right? I haven't done anything. I have my preferences, I have the items I've looked at, I have my inventory, which I'll show you in my dashboard for a second. So there's certain items that aren't moving based on chatter that I'm detecting. There's certain items that are very high in demand. So I will now show you as we run our machine learning script, these 6 beers should go ahead and change in front of you.
Got it.
So as you can see here, we went ahead and tested a few different variants. We inserted it. Let's go ahead and watch for the automatic update, which is again now part of our technology.
Like that.
So I have these 6 beers. I can now, if I do nothing, they're gonna go ahead and ship to me automatically. I can also do things like pause my shipment, reschedule it, or change my tier, all of those things. So for these purposes, I'm just gonna go ahead and keep or discard 3 and 3. Well, let's make it 3 and 3. Go ahead. So I can keep the item. If I do nothing, I also get it. If I dislike it, we go ahead and tag that there's what are the uncommon similarities based on all the tags we've mined that made you dislike it. What are the most common positive similarities? And then we go ahead and inject a new version in there. So I will also go ahead and show that now. You can take a look at our admin dashboard. Here's our admin dashboard. Still water, fire, so you see these are the same people. I'm going to go ahead now and apply the next machine learning script based on all of the current movement of inventory. Okay, so this is really the crux of all the different calculations that we're running to get this information. We look here, this just populated. And based on the amount paid, shipping all of these, we're actually going to make a $33 profit. And if you see, the reason behind that is I disliked this beer. That was $26.99. So this is where the machine learning really comes into play, right? The beer box is optimized for a customer's lifetime value. Each customer has a different lifetime value, and each customer values the beers differently. That is why it seems almost like overkill, right? That we're using a $30,000 server cluster to crunch this data. But the fact is, we are able to maximize customer happiness and maximize retention through an algorithm. If you look closely here, we're able to retrain our algorithm. We're able to tell it, hey, next time, wow, this box, no, that was not the right price. Oh, it weighs too much. The desirability is too high. Let me remove and edit unique keys. Once all of that good stuff is done, if I verify it, okay, let me go ahead and send this poor guy his box. So he'll go over here, and then let's see if he has any other items currently waiting. Okay. Ooh, look here. We can also go ahead and merge an existing order that he has with his beer box in order to save money on shipping. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and pack his box, and then I'm going to ship it out to him now. So here he is. Now he gives me a different set of detailed rating preferences that again, I can now crunch more data with. So if you want, let's just take a quick look at our site one more time and just see, wow, how fast is it to add different items from different people? It's pretty crazy fast, frankly. Oh, here are similar beers. Well, just to teach you guys a little bit something about this, in a general e-commerce site, let's say I have a really popular item and I rank that item nice and high and people love this item and its brand, right? Well, the fact is, the similar items on that page are usually more likely to have an add to cart action performed on it. So I should probably, in my most popular similar beers pages, embed inventory that's a combination of both not moving and a suitable match to always keep inventory flowing through the system. So if we go as a consumer, I can take a look at an individual brewery's page. Again, do all my nice sorting, check out their reviews, their followers, all of that activity. One of the other items we're planning on showcasing is the ability to go through all our users. So here, if I can just show you this. Okay, this is one user's profile that you should be able to access to. Here's what he's looking at. Oh, here's what he's following. I can just add this to my cart, to my order right now too. Wow, let me look at some of the other beers he's taken a look at. Oh wow, he got this in his beer club membership. Let me sign up right now. That's a general high overview of our site. One of the other things I just wanted to touch briefly on, another example of how we fundamentally use technology, is our marketing engine. Right, we found that MailChimp was not suitable to our needs in the sense that I am not going to sit here and automatically run these A/B testings among demographics that I have no information for. So we've actually built in Scala our own app to say, okay, let's first get the email address of the guy, which you can buy from these paid sources, right? But these are very expensive, $1, $2 an email. So what's the first thing I should do? I should mine automatically as much data as I can get. What's on his GitHub? What's on his LinkedIn? What's on his Facebook? Get baseline information. Okay, so now I should have probably his occupation, his demographic, his age, geographical location. Okay, a software engineer who works at Uber, he's probably going to get out at about 3 p.m. on Friday. Let me go ahead and send those guys a craft beer. Hey, why don't you buy on a Friday? And in general, you're a software engineer, you have more expensive tastes, let me send you a more premium product. If that doesn't work, or if I'm uncertain of my conclusion, let me go ahead and split test it automatically the next time. And instead of doing a 50-50 split, if I think more likely the solution isn't working, let me modify it to 80-20, see if the numbers still match up. These are very important things, I believe, in this new day and age where customer acquisition cost is everything. You live, breathe, and die by your numbers, which is really what we're about.
Okay, sounds great.
Alright, so we'll cut it there.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
That was pretty good. That was
pretty
roll.
good.
That rolled on.
Is there anything like you want to say, like, hey, what's...
Anything else I was supposed to talk about?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Deep dive into the product, 2 to 3 minutes.
That was a deep dive.
That was a very deep dive, yeah.
And I thought it hit on a lot of pretty cool things in the product, right?
Yeah, definitely. What was the last thing? Was that the last thing? Just a deep dive into the product?
Well, I'm also supposed to end it to our ask.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's your ask? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so...
So what's your ask at the end of the day? What are you looking for from investors?
Or no, first ask me something along the lines of what you provide to the industry.
I think we already answered that.
I know, but I want to re-answer it one more time.
Okay, so Sri, what exactly do you provide to the industry that others don't?
So Yusuf, the reason I think especially up-and-coming microbreweries will choose us is, I'll give you an example, we tag each beer bottle with its unique RFID chip that's tied into a temperature sensor monitor. So instead of their item sitting at unideal temperature in some hot warehouse for 2 years somewhere, we can monitor the temperature every 2 hours, guarantee that that item sells by 6 months, and if at any time its quality has degraded, we can automatically pull it from the supply chain. So our supply chain optimization to maximize the quality of their product, I believe first and foremost is single-handedly the most important thing that we do.
I would have led that. I would actually led with that.
Well, I just didn't. We're gonna.
Yeah, you sort of. Well, yeah. I mean, like I would have said if I were you. I mean, you immediately jumped into the. Honestly, I was like, what is he talking about? It was the feature point. I think you should have dropped into the first thing that you should have said was we maximize blah blah blah, and then explain how we do that. That's how you should do it. Yes.
Okay. Let me then also get one more take.
No,
okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Just say take.
Take. Go ahead.
Pretend like you asked me another question of how we're doing this or some shit like that.
Okay, how are you guys doing this? Some shit like that.
Ask it legitimately.
Okay, ask the question. Ask the same question again. Okay, so what makes you guys? What do you guys bring to the industry at the end of the day that's nobody else is bringing?
Shit, I just had such a good answer for this. I had it all mapped up. Hold on 1 second. I have to rack my brain really quick. Ask me, how are you disrupting the industry?
Okay, so Sri, how are you guys actually disrupting the industry at the end of the day?
Alright, well, as you guys can tell, I like to share stories. So I'm going to go ahead and share this one as well to give you a little background about alcohol and how it works. Okay. We all know Prohibition, what happened. Al Capone was the man in charge. Back in the days of Prohibition, you had the people who made the beer, alcohol. You had Al Capone, who moved it from the people who made it to the end retail locations that sold it. Then came Prohibition, and the United States government realized, why aren't we Al Capone? He doesn't do any work, and he makes all of the money. That's when Prohibition went away, and we were left with our gift of the 3-tier system. So the 3-tier system is where Tier 1, I'm your maker, Tier 2, I'm your wholesaler, Tier 3, I'm your retailer. If I own or indirectly own a Tier 3, I cannot touch or own a Tier 2 or a Tier 1. So this becomes incredibly problematic to have a direct-to-consumer marketing strategy, which is where craft breweries usually actually thrive, right? They have a loyal customer following. Loophole that emerged in about the last 10 years was if I have what's called a tasting room, so let's say I sell you nachos with that beer if I'm a craft brewery, I am now allowed to sell directly to my customer through a tasting room. And I can also utilize this / form an in-house distributorship to send it off into a Tier 3 location that I do not control. So the way we are really disrupting the industry is with us, the second tier is no longer necessary. It's no longer a third